Welcome, not to a speech, not to a performance, but to the moment that confirms what they refuse to believe, the moment that makes every silent doubt sound ridiculous, the moment where truth crushes denial. This is for the ones who've been stepped on, laughed at, cast aside, told they were never going to make it, never going to become anything. You weren't supposed to be here, right? You were the long shot, the outsider, the joke. They said it with confidence, as if their judgment was fact, not opinion, as if their words were law. But here you are, breaking every assumption they built around you, standing in a space they never imagined you could reach. Quiet strength, sharp focus, no gimmicks, just proof. You didn't come from applause, you came from silence, from nights spent asking questions that no one would answer, from days that tested your mind, your will, your body, from circumstances most people wouldn't survive, let alone grow from. That wasn't luck, that was resilience. You had to teach yourself how to keep moving when nothing around you made sense. You had to rebuild yourself from fragments after being torn apart by doubt, abandonment, and failure. That kind of experience doesn't just harden you, it sharpens you. You didn't become cold, you became precise. You didn't lose your heart, you learned when to protect it. So when people said you'd never be tea, they weren't just insulting your goals, they were insulting your ability to overcome. They underestimated the weight you could carry, the hell you could walk through, and the drive you were born with. That wasn't just an insult, it was a warning sign that they lacked vision. And now, they see it. Not because you argued, not because you tried to convince anyone, but because you built your life anyway. It's easy to support success when it's polished, when it's already celebrated. But where were they when you were in the mud? When nothing was certain? When failure was the only thing that felt familiar? That's when most people vanish. That's when their true character shows. They weren't against you because of what you were. They were against you because of what you might become. And now that it's real, now that it's visible, the silence is even louder than their old words. They don't say much now, but they feel it. Every step you take now drags the weight of every word they threw at you. That's why it hits harder. But here's the truth they can't handle. You didn't need them. You didn't wait for their permission. You didn't require their support. You took the disrespect, the mockery, the disbelief, and you used it. Not out of hate, not out of revenge, but out of clarity. You saw what they couldn't. You believed what they refused to. And now you live what they said was impossible. That's what makes this moment powerful. Not that you proved them wrong, but that you stayed true to yourself when there was nothing to stand on except your own will. There's no shortcut to this. No fake confidence. No shallow hype. This wasn't built overnight. It took time, pain, and patience. It took losing people you thought would never leave. It took rebuilding after every setback. It took making hard decisions that no one clapped for. But you did it anyway. Quietly. Relentlessly. You put your head down and worked while they talked. And now they're out of things to say. They used to look at you like you were lost. Like you didn't belong. But that's because they couldn't see the blueprint in your mind. They couldn't feel the urgency you carried every day. They couldn't understand the kind of pressure you were under. So they laughed. They called it unrealistic. They called it a phase. But what they never saw was that behind every quiet moment, you were building something permanent. And now it's here. Now it's undeniable. Look at the way you walk now. It's different. Not arrogant. Just certain. Not aggressive. Just aware. You know who you are now. You know what you survived. And because of that, you don't have to talk too much. You don't have to argue anymore. Your life speaks for itself. You carry proof in your presence. That's why the same people who mocked you are now silent in your presence. They can't recognize you because the version of you they ridiculed doesn't exist anymore. That person evolved. That person adapted. And what's left is someone they were never prepared for. Success hits differently when no one believed in it. When it wasn't predicted, just created. When it came from the ground, not a handout. That's your story. You didn't inherit your strength. You earned it through sweat, silence, and survival. And now, that strength is visible in everything you do. You don't need revenge. You don't need validation. Just results. Just the calm power of a life lived on your terms. So when you hear their names again, the ones who said you wouldn't become anything, don't get bitter, get clearer. Let it remind you why you kept going. Let it remind you that they never defined your limits. They revealed their own. Let it remind you that your journey was never about them anyway. It was about you, becoming who you were always meant to be. This isn't the end of your story. This is just a chapter. But it's the one they'll never forget. They used to whisper your name like it was a punchline. But now your name shows up in rooms you haven't even walked into yet. Now your story gets referenced as inspiration, not pity. That's the shift. You went from being someone they forgot to someone they can't ignore. Not because you chased the spotlight, but because you became too solid to overlook. You didn't do it with noise. You did it with consistency. You became undeniable. That kind of growth doesn't just happen. It's carved through pressure, through loss, through late nights where no one clapped, no one saw, and still, you showed up. And now they watch, quietly, carefully, hoping you fail so they can feel better. But you're not here to satisfy their expectations anymore. You've outgrown their projections. You're not the same person who once doubted themselves because others didn't believe. You don't need their belief. You became your own proof. And that's the kind of energy no one can replicate because it came from something real, something earned. It came from watching everything fall apart and still finding a reason to rebuild. They thought they were above you because they had more, because they looked the part, because they didn't see you as a threat. And maybe you weren't back then, but you watched, you learned, you stayed quiet, but you never stopped moving. You were patient, not passive, strategic, not stagnant. And now the tables have turned. Now the same ones who thought they were ahead are stuck in place. Meanwhile, you're still climbing, still creating, still pushing forward while they scramble to figure out how you passed them. It's simple. They were chasing status. You were building substance. They wanted attention. You wanted legacy. And that difference is what brought you here. Let them wonder. Let them analyze every move you make now. That's the price of evolution. The same people who once ignored you will now study you. They'll try to copy your work ethic, your mindset, your energy, but they won't understand it because what you carry can't be imitated. They didn't feel the pressure that built you. They didn't endure the silence that trained you. They didn't bleed for the life you live now. So they'll always be confused by how you keep going, how you stay grounded, how you win without shouting. They don't get it, and they're not supposed to. Your silence used to be mistaken for weakness, but now it speaks louder than their noise. That's how you know you've shifted. You don't argue anymore. You don't beg for support. You let your actions speak. Your results speak. Your growth speaks. And it speaks with volume. Because real strength doesn't demand attention. It commands respect, quietly, without announcement. And that's who you are now. Quietly powerful, steady, focused, unshakable. They said you'd never be anything, but here you are, doing everything they swore you couldn't, and not just doing it, mastering it, exceeding it, surpassing every shallow prediction they made about you, not for revenge, not to spite them, but because you always knew this was possible. Even when you had no evidence, even when everything around you was falling apart, you still knew. That kind of knowing, it's different. It's not arrogance, it's truth. Buried deep, waiting, and now it's showing. Look around. You didn't just level up, you broke through. And while they're still asking how, you're already planning your next move. That's the beauty of moving in silence. By the time they notice, it's already too late. You're not accessible in the same way anymore. You've become rare, not because you're better, but because you chose growth over comfort. And most people won't do that. They'll sit with their doubt and call it realism. You sat with your vision and made it real. And that difference, that mindset, it built this moment. So breathe it in. This isn't luck. This isn't a phase. This is the result of staying loyal to yourself. When no one else believed, when no one clapped, when no one cared. You didn't fold. You didn't break. You chose to rise again and again. And now it shows. Now it echoes in every room you walk into. You didn't just survive the worst days. You used them. You learned from them. And you turned every low into leverage. And maybe they still don't get it. Maybe they never will. That's not your problem. You're not here to make sense to them. You're here to make history with your actions. You're here to live so unapologetically that every person who ever said you wouldn't become anything has to sit with the fact that you did. And no, you don't owe them kindness. You don't owe them closure. Let them sit with the discomfort of their own disbelief. That's not bitterness. That's balance. You earn this every step, every scar, every lesson. And from here on out, you keep building. You don't slow down to explain. You don't water yourself down to be accepted. You don't shrink just because they're uncomfortable watching you win. Let them adjust. Let them watch. Let them feel it. Because you're just getting started. They told you to settle, told you to be quiet, told you to take what you were given and be thankful for it, told you to stay in your lane, to stop dreaming so big, to stop trying so hard. But you never listened. Not because you were stubborn, because you knew better. You knew your worth, even when the world refused to see it. You knew your potential, even when no one else believed in it. You carried that vision in your bones while they doubted it out loud. And now that vision isn't just a thought, it's your reality. You've learned that success isn't about trophies or recognition. It's about surviving the worst parts of yourself and still showing up. It's about the nights where the silence is deafening and the fear is real, but you still find a way to keep moving forward. It's about the moments when you wanted to quit, but you didn't, because quitting would have been easy. Staying would be the victory. And every day you stayed is a reminder that you're stronger than the fear that tried to stop you. You're not here because it was easy. You're here because you made it through when no one expected you to. Because you refused to give their words power. Because you refused to give their doubt permission. That's the kind of strength that can't be taught. It can only be earned in fire. You were forged in the flames of rejection, loneliness, and struggle. And what came out of it? Something unstoppable. Something raw. Something real. People see your surface now, your confidence, your glow up, but they don't see the groundwork. They don't see the sacrifices, the heartbreak, the self-doubt, the days spent rebuilding your spirit after it was shattered. They only see the final product, And because they don't see the process, they think it was luck. They think it was handed to you, but you know the truth. You know every step forward was a battle. Every achievement was a war won in silence. So to those who said you'd never be anything, you're not here to prove them wrong. You're here to prove yourself right. And that's a whole different level of power. When you chase validation, you put your energy in their hands. When you chase your own truth, you take it all back. You become the master of your story, not yet a victim of their disbelief. Now, the real test isn't about how far you've come, it's about how far you'll go. Because the journey doesn't end when they finally shut up. It ends when you're so far beyond their reach, they don't even see you anymore. When their opinions don't touch you, and your own belief in yourself is unshakable. When the life you build is so loud, it drowns out every whisper of doubt that ever tried to hold you down. That's the future you're walking toward. Not just success, not just respect, but peace. The kind of peace that comes when you know you earned everything you have, when you know you didn't compromise, when you know that no matter what comes next, you are ready. So hold your head high. Remember where you came from, but don't stay there. Keep pushing, keep building, keep proving that no one can define your limits but you. The world might keep talking, but your life is the answer they'll never forget. Look at you now. You're not the same person who doubted. You're not the same person who was pushed aside. You're the one who showed up, the one who stayed, the one who won. And that is a power no one can take away. You've been underestimated your entire life, not because you're weak, but because others refuse to see your potential. Because the world loves to put people in boxes, label them, write off their dreams before they even start. But you shattered every box. You broke every label. You refused to be written off as a lost cause or a failed experiment. You decided your story wasn't going to be about what you lacked, but about what you built from scratch. That's a level of power that's rare. Not because everyone isn't capable of it, but because most people give up before they get there. Most people let the noise win. Most people stop fighting when the silence grows too loud. But you didn't. You leaned into the struggle. You embraced the pain. You learned to thrive in chaos when everyone else fled. That's not luck. That's not chance. That's pure will, refined over years of hardship and heartbreak. You've earned the right to stand tall, to speak your truth, to live boldly, because nothing was handed to you. Every piece of your success was wrestled from a place that tried to keep you down, and that struggle gave you a clarity that no easy victory ever could. You know who you are, you know what you want, and you know what you're willing to sacrifice to get it. So when the past tries to whisper in your ear, when the old doubts creep back in, when the voices that once said you'd never be anything try to regain ground, remember this: they were never right. They were only loud. They only seemed powerful because you believed them for a moment. But you chose to be louder, to be stronger, to be better. And now, every time you look in the mirror, you don't just see the person you are, you see the person you fought to become. The person who wasn't supposed to make it, the person who did. And that reflection carries a power that no one can diminish. Your story is a warning to anyone who thinks they can count you out. It's a beacon for those still fighting in the dark. And it's a reminder that greatness is never born from ease. It's forged in the fire of relentless effort, refusal, and faith in yourself when no one else had it. You are that story. You are that fire. And you are the proof that no matter what anyone says, no matter how many times they say you'll never be anything, you can rise, you can conquer, you can become more than they ever imagined. This is your moment. Own it, live it, and keep pushing. Because the only limits that ever mattered were the ones you allowed to exist. And now you're limitless. So here's the truth no one saw coming. You were never meant to stay small. Every doubt, every insult, every "you'll never be" was just fuel. Now, you're proof that limits are lies, that strength is born in the fight. Keep that fire alive. Keep moving forward. Because the world will always try to tell you who you are, but only you get to decide who you become. Look at you now. You made it, and this is just the beginning.